All right, let's see if we are up and running. Seems like we might be. That's cool. Hey folks, hi, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games. I illustrate them and I publish them online. And we are currently working on a Rubblebelt hexcrawl campaign for the Ravnica setting that we are currently in the process of creating. Am I up and running? Hold on, public. Let's see if I'm active or not. Is this up and running? Mic check, mic check. 1, 2, 3. Mic check. Sounds like I'm there. Okay, cool. Let's see here. If we can have this thing working. I'm going to press some buttons here real quick. Don't mind me. Bop, bop, bop. Bop, 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 bop. I gotta click on a bunch of stuff here to make things go. So give me a hot second here while I pull all that stuff together here, and then we'll get going here in a minute. If you're looking at this in the future, I'll like skip forward like 30 seconds or something, and we should be up and running. But in the meantime, let me go ahead and punch through all the la-di-das here to have us up and running here. Cool and I don't have my stuff prepped the way that I thought I did. Developing martial power system. I'm currently posting to various social media sites that I am up and running. So let me go through my intro spiel here so you aren't too bored. Hey, my name is Phil Kearney. I create role-playing games, I illustrate them, and I publish them online. And I've been focusing my attention on Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition pretty much since the release of Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica back in 2017. I was past editions of D&D when they expanded the realm of the scope of their game. There would often be new mechanics that were introduced that would help lean into the narrative of whatever it is that they were designing. And so I thought that this would result in them having a color mana system to replace the 8 schools of magic, and a mana system to replace the spell points, spell slots that is typical of 5e. But that I then learned that the philosophy of Wizards now in 5e is to take any ideas that they have and try to grind them down to whatever's already inside of the core rulebook. So instead of having a color magic philosophy with mana, they just took the worlds of Magic the Gathering and then distilled them into the 8 schools of magic with spell slots, as would be a typical D&D campaign, just using the narrative and flavor of MTG to inform any campaigns that you would want to have in Ravnica, Strixhaven, Theros, or any other MTG world that you may decide to drift around inside of. So I found that to be dissatisfying. That got me on the road to create the color mana spell point variant rules, which converts the 8 schools of magic into the 5 color magic paradigm, and to replace spell slots with a more intuitive, flexible spell point mana system that the Martial Powers project that we're working on will then have all 13 classes in D&D using the same color mana system to power spells, class features, abilities, so that, you know, if you're playing a Boros rogue, or like if you're like playing like a Boros paladin or a Dimir rogue or a Quandrix druid, all these things actually mean something both narratively and mechanically to your character. So you can have that ludo narrative, which is the mechanics reflect the narrative inside the game, which allows you to express your characters a lot more flavorfully. And even people that just like the min-max automatically have narrative built into their characters just by the color identities that they choose for the mechanics that they prefer. So a lot of really cool potential there. There's a lot of books. This Spelljammer book that we've been working on, this is actually going to be publishing probably like on Saturday this week. Very, very soon. So you guys can keep an eye out for that as well. But here, let me rearrange my screen here real quick, and we'll get things up and running. Big shout out to everyone that's been interested in this. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications when I'm live in the future, which is frequent. I'm here 11 times per week in the mornings, lunchtimes, and evenings. I've got a 20-minute timer ticking down to make sure I'm paying attention to my lunch hour. I just posted that I'm live on X Twitter. If you're on the X Twitter platform still, I'm at Phil Kearney. You can catch me there. Huge shout out to the Ravnica DMs. our subreddit for Ravnica DMs, where I go to sharpen my knives in the world of Ravnica. And there's also a link here down below to my Patreon. People that are paying members of Patreon have first rights to chairs during playtesting, this and other things that I do. You can also access my Discord through the About page. You don't have to be a paying member of Patreon to access my Discord just to shoot the shit. Color Mana Spell Point Variant Rules here on DMsGuild is going to have a massive update once the core books in 2024 come out. So if you want to catch the tech now and get the updates for free later, you're certainly welcome to do so. And thanks for everyone that's interested. So we're making a Rubblebelt campaign here. You crash land in the Rubblebelt. Each of these little squares are 10 miles. These larger blocks are 30 miles. You can traverse, conquer the challenges that are in each of these tiles in a 5-hour block. So you have a 24-hour day. You take a 9-hour long rest. When you're done with that, you move into one of these grids, one of these zones here. You conquer the monsters, the hazards, and the enchantments that may be active there. And then you can, the narrative here is that you had an ornithopter that was going from one district to another across hundreds of miles of Rubblebelt separating the two metropolis. And so your ship goes down for a number of, it could be weather, it could be sabotage, could be attack, could be creatures. There's a number of different things that can cause the ship to go down, but go down it does. And you're stranded in the vastness of the Rubblebelt. So it then becomes your mission to lead all the non-combatant character NPCs with their luggage through the Rubblebelt to try to find a way out or to survive long enough to get rescued. So the mission, the procedure of the game is choose which tile you want to go into, and various scouting features allows you to gain different pieces of information about where your next move may be. You move into that spot. It takes 5 hours to resolve that space. It's a 10-mile square, so the amount of time needed to scout it and then deal with any of the combat, puzzles, exploration, and mana traps that may exist in that area. It's a 5-hour in-game space to resolve that, and then you can move on to another area. An elevated or sunken area are considered difficult terrain. So instead of taking 5 hours to traverse that space, it takes 10 hours. And at the end of each traverse, whether at the end of every 5-hour period of time, you can take a short rest. And then, of course, during the long rest, the 9 hours, you get your long rest. So during that block of time, if you are, you can only move your caravan into an area that you've secured. And so if you are surrounded by any tiles that are adjacent to where you take your long rest that haven't been resolved, can potentially create random encounters to attack your caravan in the evening. So taking time to secure the perimeter around your camp is important. And you can find various types of their color themes. So there'll be different creatures, traps, environmental hazards, and enchantments that are active in the area depending on what the zone, like what the region is. Like this is a red region, and there's red tiles in that region. There's black tiles in the region, white, blue, and green. There's a wide blue. Yeah. So every color is present in this tile, and so when you enter a tile, you could either deal with the region, the red region itself, or the black tile itself. And since this is a sunken region of black, then that's a swamp-like area that leads into the Undercity or Underdark of the Rubblebelt. And as the DM uses just hexcrawl style randomized populating of each tile within a region, emergent gameplay will occur where there'll be different collections of monsters, factions, remnant guild artifacts, and enchantments and spell effects that are still up and gone rogue unto themselves that can threaten the team and their caravan. If your team gets killed, there's other NPC scouts that are out running around helping protect the caravan as you, the advanced scouts, move forward to secure the next path forward. So if your team gets scrapped, you just recruit the next roster of characters from the caravan to take their place to keep moving the caravan forward. And then in the evening, everything consolidates. You can swap out your characters if you want to try something different or go with a different color. But the idea is that all the guilds could be present, except for Gruul. Initially, Gruul is in charge of the Rubblebelt. So initially, until you form an alliance with Gruul, you don't have access to the Gruul clan. And Dimir is obviously not officially present either because they always disguise themselves as another guild. So you could have up to 8 different guilds present, though the Dimir could potentially express itself as a different guild to remain concealed. But the idea is that everyone is working together to help each other survive the experience here. So everyone that's in the caravan is automatically an ally, even if you have enemy colors in of your color pairing, like Boros versus Rakdos, for instance, are kind of enemies. But in this Rubblebelt campaign, they have a truce that we're all working together to be able to get out alive, and we can resume our hostilities and rivalries once we're out. But for now, let's all stay alive. And so if you can recruit a Gruul clan into assisting you, then you can pull from all 10 guilds and be able to sally forth from there. So right now what we're doing is, let's get into the meat of what we're doing here. Wait for this to pop up. Oh, by the way, the playtest content for this, this is a read-only document that we're sitting inside of here. Here are the full play. There's 112 pages worth of documentation here. It has the entire mana system for the martial powers, all 140 powers that a character can have, the class variants and the subclass rebuilds, like all the because they have access to mana and they all have martial powers. Every single subclass has a bonus power list that they gain access to at 3rd, 5th, 9th, 13th, and 17th level. So, and then the features that each class has is altered by the mana mechanics that we have built in here. But the entire thing is here. It's a read-only document. So, if you request access to it through editing, that's assumed that you want to get updates, and you'll be added to the email update list. So, keep that in mind. It's read-only on purpose. And but you're certainly welcome to check this out, and if you have questions about it, you are most invited to dive into the Discord, which you can access again through the Patreon, the About page here. But right now what we're doing is we are going through the different enchantments. Let's see. Enchantments by color. We've gone through the City of Guilds, Return to Ravnica, and currently we're working on the Ravnica Allegiance. So let's go back here. We're looking at Verity's Circle. I think that's the last thing that we worked. Yeah, Verity's Circle was the last thing that we had worked on. Now we're looking at font. So what I want to do is get 6 enchantments of each color type, so that if we have, when you enter a tile, it randomizes what sort of threats are within the region. And so if we scroll up here, this is all threats. There you go. There's creatures, traps, and hazards. Yeah, the 5 colors, and then depending on what you roll for your threat, we're going to have separate threats for each color: creatures, enchantments, and specific hazards. We're going through specific land types that exist inside of the Ravnica setting cards, so that we can have a diversity of narrative and like a variety of narrative description of what these different terrain types are like, so it's not just boring. But as you move to different types of terrains, then we're looking at different types of challenges. So you roll a d6. On a 1 or 2, there's a dungeon. And inside that dungeon, that dungeon will create monsters on the surface world until you go in and remove the dungeon. There's no telling how many creatures are actually in that dungeon. So until you actually go in and clean it out, it's a variable that can just create monsters to harass your team. So if you find a dungeon, you got to clean it. Inside that dungeon, there can be enchantments, monsters, and environmental hazards. Outside, on the surface, again, there can be dungeons, there could be enchantment effects, there could be monsters, and there could be natural hazards. That should actually be not natural hazards, it should be environment hazards. Let's change that. Environment hazards. There we go. And so we're fleshing this thing out as we keep going along. We're going to build creatures, and then environment hazards, And here's the severity of enchantments that we're looking at. And frequency, the amount of mana it takes to dispel the effect. And the DC is let's see, mile effect is roll. Frequency is oh yeah, if it has a time effect, it's it pulses every 5 hours if it's mild. If it's extreme, it's every minute. The amount of mana that it takes can be combined among your team, so everyone has to expend that amount of mana to dispel these things, which is a lot at low levels. So you have to conserve your mana or be able to, because you can't rest during the sortie. You have a 5-hour burst to go and clean it out and then go back to your caravan to move them forward. And you can take a short rest while the caravan is advancing into the space that you cleared out. So you can't just like retreat, take a rest, and advance. If you do, you failed that tile and it becomes aggressive. And it'll challenge you. It'll challenge you back at the caravan to have a siege on your caravan, which we'll have to build out separately. And then we have the DC, which is to disable an enchantment effect as like a rogue, artificer, or some sort of anyone with like an arcana check. You can go in and use that ability to attempt to dispel. And so the DC is the number of the DC, and then 3 divided by 18. It's that's right. It's DC is severity times 3 plus 10. That's how you get your DC. So there you go. There's that, and disabling enchantments, and then the enchantment by color. So right now we're looking at Font of Agonies. So let's go down to what does that do. Font of Agonies. Whenever you pay life, put that many blood counters on Font of Agonies. Remove 4 blood counters from Font of Agonies. Destroy target creature. Ill-gotten inheritance. Let's see. That I can still hear myself. I need to, I think, turn the volume down a touch more. There. Let's see. I'm trying to build enchantments that are good to use again. We were looking at last time. Yesterday we were considering having enchantments that the team could subvert and take control of. But I think the better thing to do would just to have them be hostilities that the team disarms like a trap. And not be able to make, because gaining leverage over and making use of the magic yourself, that feels that would take away from the focus of trying to traverse the place and moving forward. That would encourage teams to camp zones where they have control of a good enchantment. That will be to their benefit. But once they clear a tile, it's empty and they stall out. So there's no benefit for sticking around, and it would bait them into wasting time. That's not going to be productive. So I am recycling that idea, and instead it's a hostility that has to be cleared to not be hostile to you as you scout, but also so that your caravan can safely enter that space. So I think that's a better narrative that will also simplify the game. So right now we're just looking for mechanics that can be used, that we can craft to use against the team, either by buffing creatures, hazards, magics, or just have an effect that'll impact the team in a detrimental way while they're in that area. Kind of like how you have boosting effects in Path of Exile. When you build an Atlas map, you can build in disadvantages or hostility to make the creatures more powerful. This is kind of that same idea. So let's see. Whenever you pay life, that many blood. Okay, yeah, nah, that's not going to make sense. At the beginning of your upkeep, ill-gotten inheritance deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you gain 1 life. Sacrifice ill-gotten inheritance. It deals 4 damage to target opponent, and you gain 4 life. I don't want to kill characters. That's not the theme of what we're doing here. But Font of Agonies. Whenever you pay life, put that many blood counters on Font of Agonies. Remove 4 blood counters from Font of Agonies whenever you pay life. So paying life is a sacrifice trigger that you use instead of mana to power a spell. So it could be that put that many blood counters. Whenever you pay life, you pay blood. Blood accumulates. I feel like there's something there, but I'm not quite feeling it. So I'm just going to keep moving forward and see what pops up. Cavalcade of Calamity. Whenever a creature you control with power 1 or less attacks, Cavalcade of Calamity deals 1 damage to the players or planeswalkers that creature is attacking. Deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker that the creature is attacking. Power 1 or less attacks. Cavalcade of Calamity deals 1 damage on top of it. Let's see. Cavalcade of... Oh, okay. I know how that works. So what we'll do is Cavalcade of Calamity. Cavalcade of Calamity equals creature crit range expands by the severity of enchantment. So a mild enchantment will give it a 19 or 20. A supernatural enchantment is a scale. Is what, a scale of 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it'll have a range of 14 through 20. A creature will crit on you at that super severe level. So that's neat. We'll go with that. Let's up this to here so we have a clean break on our screen. Very good. All right, so let's see. That was Cavalcade of Calamity. I love that. Mirror, ooh, neat. Mirror March. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, flip a coin until you lose a flip. For each flip you won, create a token that's a copy of that creature. Those tokens gain haste. Exile them at the beginning of the next end state. Oh, whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield, you get bonus creatures until they go away. For each, those tokens gain haste, so they attack immediately. Mirror March. Mirror March equals creatures have advantage on initiative, on stealth, initiative, and creatures benefit from mirror image spell. Guardian Project. Whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it doesn't have the same name as another creature you control, or a creature in your graveyard, draw a card. Wilderness Reclamation. At the beginning of your end step, untap all lands you control. At the beginning, Jesus. At the beginning of your end step, untap all lands you control. There's some potentially cool stuff that we could do. At the beginning of your end step, untap all lands you control. A turn in a deck in the deck card game Magic the Gathering. A turn is basically a day, and a long rest you untap your mana. So you go, your team, all your enemies go, and then when it comes back to your round, that's basically you completing a long rest. You get all your mana back, and then you sally forth again anew. So this would be untap all lands you control. Oh god, that's such a beneficial thing for players. I want to pass on that. I want hostilities towards the team. I'm not seeing them there immediately. When Dovin's Acuity enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life and draw a card. Whenever you cast an instant spell during your main phase, You may return Dobbin's Acuity to its owner's hand. When Dobbin's Acuity enters the battlefield, you gain 2 health and gain. Oh, interesting. Whenever you cast an instant... Oh, that's a rotating card. That's interesting. High Alert. This might make sense. Each creature you control assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power. Creatures you control can attack as though they didn't have Defender. High Alert. Let's go with... it's a blue-white card. We already have more than enough white enchantments. So let's put it on blue. High Alert. High Alert equals creatures have... the word I'm looking for is Sentinel. Creatures have Sentinel feet. And as though they didn't have Defender rather than its power. Hypertonistic is one of the abilities. Here, let me find it for you real quick. Hypertonistic. Here. When you make an opportunity attack, you can attack the same creature twice. There you go. So, Sentinel Feet, if you draw an attack from them, they can hit you twice. Suck it. It's a cool thing to pick up, by the way. That's an exploit. Yeah. An exploit. So when you trigger an opportunity attack, you can spend. It's expensive. It's 3 mana to be able to slap somebody twice. But you could also purchase it. You could also buy it down. So it could drop down to 2 in cost instead of 3 if you're willing to spend like a feat or like learn it twice. You can buy it down once. Let's see what else we got going on in here. Ethereal Absolution. That sounds cool. Creatures you control get advantage. Team is at disadvantage. Exile target card from an opponent's graveyard. If it was a creature card, you create a 1/1 black-white spirit creatures with flying. Ethereal Absolution. Wow. Ethereal. Is that white and black? Yeah, it sure feels like white and black. That's a black enchantment for sure, man. Ethereal Absolution. Holy crap. Absolution equals creatures killed become specters. Oh wait, creatures, monsters, not creatures, because characters are technically creatures too. Monsters have advantage on attacks and when killed become specters. Characters are disadvantaged to attack specters. There we go. That's nasty as all get out. Captive Audience. Captive Audience enters the battlefield under the control of an opponent of your choice. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose one that hasn't been chosen. Your life total becomes 4. Discard your hand. Each opponent creates 5 2/2 zombie creature tokens. Captive Audience. Let's look at Theater of Horrors instead. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. During your turn, if an opponent lost life this turn, you may play lands and cast spells from among cards exiled with Theater of Horrors. Deals 1 damage. Theater of Horrors deals 1 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. Theater of Horrors. Let's make it a red, because there's not a lot of red enchantments out there. So Theater of Horrors. It's more black than red. And I know there's ideally we would have enough enchantments to bridge the color divide. You could go either way, like have like Dimir only enchantments or like Golgari only enchantments, whatever. But that's, I don't know if I'll be able, if we were to continue on with this, we could potentially eventually find enough to flesh out all of that. But I just want a sampling for now. A D6 this should be random enough to be able to mess around with it, and as it continues on, if it becomes a more viable product, then we can expand it out to a D10. Ideally, I'd have everything on D10s. I think that's the way that I like to roll. Pardon the pun. Theater of Horrors is at the beginning of the turn, exile the top card in your library. During your turn, if an opponent loses lost life this turn, you may play lands and cast spells. Oh, that's what it is. Theater of Horrors equals when characters take damage, whiz save, or when characters take damage, they are vexed, using the weapon mastery language. When characters take damage, they are vexed. And monsters can't be countered or dispelled by vexed characters. There we go. That's a good one. Cindervine. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, Cindervines deals 1 damage to that player. Sacrifice Cindervines, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, targeted by spell or effect, deal extra power die of damage. A power die is going to be D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, based on the rank of the threat. Like a CR1 creature is a first rank threat. A CR 13 is a 4th rank threat. So anytime, like if a beholder were coming at you, which is a 4th rank creature, every time it targeted you with an eye beam effect, not only would you soak the effect of the beam, but you'd also take an extra D10 damage while this enchantment is active. Rhythm of the Wild. Creatures, spells you control can't be countered. Let's see. Monster. There you go. Can't be countered. Countered. Can't be countered. Yeah. Simic Ascendancy. Whenever 1 or more counters are put on a creature you control, put that many growth counters on Simic Ascendancy. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Simic Ascendancy has 20 or more growth counters on it, you win the game. How do we want to do this? Is it ETB? Oh, whenever you put counters. Okay, so when monster is targeted with buff effects, oh, here it is. When monster is targeted by spell or effect increase its rank by 1 up, increases 1, max 5. So if I were to zing, like if I were to zing a kobold with a magic missile and it doesn't kill that creature, the kobold is normally a first rank monster. But if I hit it and it isn't killed, it's now a second rank monster. So anytime a monster is using martial powers against your team, instead of rolling a d4, it's rolling d6s. It'd be 2d6. It wouldn't be 1d4, it'd be 2d6. And then it'd be 3d8. And then 4d10. And then 5d12. So if you can't kill that thing, it gets stronger. That's really cool. Wait. Monster spells, effects can't. This is supposed to be Simic Ascendancy. Thank you. Simic Ascendancy equals, and this was Rhythm of the Wild. Cindervine. I wasn't writing down the name of these things. That's so funny. So, like, if you were to survey, if you were to, like, say, if you're in the starting hex and you were to survey this elevating blue tile, and you make your check, and then we would go in and, like, let's say there is an enchantment there. I'm going to roll a d6. I just rolled a 3. A 3 is Detention Sphere, Zoria Space. So when you spend mana, make a charisma saving throw or get stuck in a resilient sphere, which you can get out of with dexterity saving throws using the power system. So it's not you're stuck in that ball, but you could stay in it if you wanted to. It's an indestructible ball of force. Like, you could roll it around as a hamster ball if you want. It's not necessarily bad. It's just what happens. You can get out with your saving throw, but you could stay in if you wanted to. It just limits your engagement. That's actually really cool. So yes, so you're surveying this area. You detect that there's an aura effect. You're able to then make an intelligence check to identify it, and then you'll know it's a detention sphere enchantment, and I'll tell you what that enchantment will do. And you'll be like, oh god, that sucks ass. What about to the south? What about red there? There's a red tile. Maybe that's going to be more agreeable. Maybe it doesn't have an enchantment, but if it does, again, I'd roll a d6 to go check out the enchantments. Let's say I rolled a 5. That would be Cindervine. So when characters are targeted by spells or effects, you deal an extra power die damage. So I would flat out tell you, this is what you're going to have to endure while you're going, kind of like with Path of Exile. You know what you're going to have to face. It's up to you if you want to face it or not. But if you run out of options, you have to move forward. You have to pick something. So good luck. That's the idea behind that. So that's the end of the enchantments there. So let's click back. And let's go to the type as enchantments. And we're going to go back to expansion is going to be Ravnica. Let's look at Ravnica. Did we do remastered already? I don't think we did. But if you run out of options, you have to move forward. You have to pick something. So good luck. Let's see if this offers us anything. Let's see what we find. Angelic Exaltation. Ooh. Yeah, I don't think I've seen these before. Whenever a creature you control... Oh, this is white. We already have a shitload of white. I mean, white's all about enchantments, right? That's why we'd have a lot of them. Let's see if I can... Thank you. I've got 20 minutes left. Let's see if I can traipse through that and copy enchantment. Eyes everywhere. Did we have this one? I think we've already traipsed through these. It's just remastered. It might not. I don't think it might have anything new. Casmian has transmutation. That's an enchantment creature aura effect. Ill-gotten inheritance. Beginning of your turn, ill-gotten inheritance, deal 1 damage. Sacrifice ill-gotten. Yeah. We just saw that. Okay, so remastered doesn't work. What else is here waiting for us? We have City of Guilds, Return, and Allegiance. Get rid of that. Return to Rav, Rav Allegiance, Rav Remastered. Ravnica Allegiance. Okay, let's see what Clue Edition is. But yeah, I guess let's see if there's something here. Psychic Impetus. That's an aura effect. Colossal Majesty. Holy Hannah. Oh, we already have 6 enchantments for red, or for green, but let's take a look. Colossal Majesty. At the beginning of your upkeep, you control a creature with power of 4 or more. Draw a card. What is this one? White blue enchant creature. No. Incriminating Impetus, which is black red. It's creature aura. Who cares? Dreadbridge Chant. When Dreadbridge Chant enters the battlefield, mill 10 cards. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose a card at random in your graveyard. If it's a creature card, put it onto the battlefield. Otherwise, put it in your hand. Dreadbridge Chant. God, I love that language. We have 6 there. We need 1 blue. We need 1 blue and we need 1 red. 1 blue, 1 red. Incriminating Impetus. Suspect enchanted creature. And is goaded. It attacks. Okay. Incriminating Impetus. Menace and can't block. Enchanted creature gets +2 +. Oh, that's a creature enchantment. Damn it. I like that though. Dreadbridge Chant. I guess we're just gonna go hunting for more generic stuff. That's not specifically Ravnica. That's okay. Enchantments. Let's see. Let's go with Apocalypse. That sounds meaty. I guess we're just gonna go hunting for more generic stuff. What you got? Seda Sanctuary. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control a red or green permanent, draw a card, then discard a card. If you control a red permanent and a green permanent, instead draw 2 cards. Ice Cave. Ah, there we go. Whenever a player casts a spell, any other player may pay that spell's mana cost. If it does, counter that spell. Whenever a player casts a spell, nasty. Ice Cave equals What else we got? Let's go find red real quick. Blood, Fire, Infusion. That's an aura. Of course it is. Raka Sanctuary. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control a white or blue and permanent, Raka Sanctuary deals 1 damage to target creature. Huh. Wild Research. Search your library for an enchantment card, reveal it. Search your chair for an instant, reveal it. Is there a different red effect? Quicksilver Dagger. That's inappropriate. Goblin Trenches. Oh, man. Sacrifice a land, create creature tokens. Goblin Trenches. Power Stone Minefield. Whenever a creature attacks or blocks, Power Stone deals 2 damage to it. Whew. Okay, I got a thought for this one. Power Stone Minefield. That's fucking tight. Let's go with this. Power Stone Minefield equals when you target a monster with a mana effect, you are targeted as well. Holy crap, it's like a reflect thing. That's nasty. And that technically fills out all of our 6. I still have 10 minutes to go. Let's go into bonus time and see if I can find something better. Sentinel feat and are hypertonistic. Verity circle. Creatures gain advantage to save versus effects. I want to replace that ice cave. I just think I want something better. Yamaya's Embrace. That's an aura effect. I'll get. Fervent Charge. Whenever a creature you control attacks, gains blah. Overgrown Estate. Sacrifice a land. Blah. Alright. Let's go back. Let's go with... fuck it. Let's just go with enchantments. Let's just go through them all. Bloop. Yeah, just give them all to me. Let's just do that. There's only 3,200. Let's revise that a little bit. Red. Let's just look at red enchantments for now. See if we can find something better. Okay, there's Balls of Fire. When this enchantment enters the battlefield, you may put a name sticker on it. Whenever you put a sticker on this enchantment, it deals damage equal to the number of O's in the name stickers of... No. Acquire Mutation. Enchanted creatures gain bonuses and are goaded. Whenever enchanted creature attacks, defending player gets 2 rad counters. Oh, this must be... unglued or whatever. Aether Charge. We can still find cool stuff in here though, maybe. Now, whenever a beast enters the battlefield under your control, you may have it deal 4 damage to a target opponent or planeswalker. Aether Flash. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, Aether Flash deals 2 damage to it. Let's let's see if there's one we wanted to replace. When creatures die, a sapling token is created. Glare of Subdual. Sack a bonus action for target creature to use a reaction as an action. I want to replace Glare of Subdual. Collective Blessing, add 1 power die to all attack rolls, and then gain temporary hit points. That was a good one. Rhythm of the Wild. God, those punch hard. Create a thing. Gain action economy. I want to replace that. Rhythm of the Wild. Monster spells and effects can't be countered. Gain temp HP. I have another thing that gains temp HP here. I think I want to swap that one. Simic Ascendancy. When creature is targeted by a spell or effect, increases rank. I love that. I'm going to keep that. I love Power Stone. I like the Cinder Vine. Mirror March. Creatures have advantage on stealth initiative, and creatures benefit from mirror image. I like that. Cavalcade of Calamity. Creatures' crit range expands by the severity of enchantment. When spinning mana, that's not red. Deal 1 power die. I want to replace that. Aether Flash. When creature enters the battlefield, Aether Flash deals 2 damage to it. Let's go with Aether Flash. This is how we'll work that. When you roll initiative, take a power die of damage. That's mean. Mind Mole, spending mana for a power or spell randomizes an equal number of mana in your pool. That's really complicated. I want to replace that. What can we replace that with? Something cool, hopefully. Aggravated Assault. Untap all creatures you control after that main phase. This is an additional combat phase, followed by an additional main... Oh, yeah. Aggression. Enchant all... No, that's an aura effect. Aggravated Assault isn't bad. Aggressive Mining. You can't play lands. Sacrifice a land, draw 2 cards, activate... Agility is an aura. At all will be 1. Whenever you put 1 or more counters on a permanent or player, all will be 1. Deals that much damage to an opponent. Alpine Moon. As Alpine Moon enters the battlefield, choose a non-basic land type. Control with these chosen land loses all mana. Amok. Discard a card at random. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Ancient Runes. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, Ancient Runes deals damage to that player equal to the number of artifacts they control. Ooh, neat. Ancient Runes. Okay, let's do that. I think that's infinitely better. Ancient Runes equals take... power die of... When you sustain a mana effect, take power die damage, rank equals mana. Tapped. So you can tap up to 5 mana. If you're 17th level, at 3rd level you only tap 1. So you take, and again, ranks 1 through 5 is D4, D6, D8, D10, D12. So if you sustain, you could sustain 2 mana, and you activate 1 aura that requires 1 mana tapped to sustain, that would deal a D4 of damage. If you then sustain another first rank effect, that would thus have you have a total of 2 mana tapped. That would then equal a D6 damage that you take. So you took a D4 for the first one, and then you take a D6 for the second. If you just had no mana, and then you activated 1 aura that has 2 mana, then it would just be a single shot of a D6 damage that you take. I like that much. Very much. That's super pimp. Let's see. We found some things that we wanted to swap out here. We're going to call this one done. Slightly happy. Let's see if there's anything we don't like here. Concerted effort. All monsters gain attacks and abilities of other monsters. I love that. Light of sanction. All monsters gain careful casting for AoE effects. Love that. Suppression field. All characters' sustained effects are dismissed unless they use their reaction. All sustained effects and mana conditions end unless you pay a ward, which is reaction. So you have to use your react. In this instance, like if I have an aura that's active, I would have to use my reaction each turn to keep it up. If I were to hit you with like a blindness effect and the character is, and that creature is blind, it will be able to eventually save its way out of it. But if it fails its saving throw and I want to keep that blindness in effect, I'm going to have to use my reaction to keep it up. If I have both a sustained effect and I've blinded something, as long as I'm spending my reaction, I can maintain, both of them can be preserved. So that's interesting. I like that. Privileged position. You cannot target creatures with powers or spells. I love that. Martial law. Enemies attack with disadvantages. You can't sustain spells or effects. Sphere of safety attacks and targeted effects must pay a ward. Angelic exaltation. Gain power die to attack rolls and an advantage while allies are within sight. I'm going to get rid of angelic exaltation. I like the rest of these things. I think they're fine. Attacks are targeted effects, and target effects must pay a ward, with it's either a bonus action or an attack action per target. So whenever you want to attack or target something, you have to either use your bonus action or your attack action to pay for that effect, which sucks. So what you could do, when you have these horrible conditions, what you can prioritize as a team is find the enchantment and disable the enchantment and then go back and clean out the enemies. So you can do these things in any order that you want. If you know there's hazards, enchantments, and creatures in a region, you can resolve them in any order that you want. You'll scout the area and know what's there. So you'll spend your 5 hours scouting it, and then you can choose to also, during that period of time, you're either going to narrate that you avoid engagement, or you are going to attempt to defeat all those things. Like you can go into the area and find out what's going on, or you can try to avoid it altogether. I like that. So I actually want to put that down as a procedural update. Let's see. Scouting a tile with a good, let's see. Thank you. Scouting a tile allows you to determine what the threat is, what types of threats to determine, what threats are, what challenges are in the area. Okay, so when you're like we were talking about before, you can scout ahead, right? You want to look at that blue area. You would do a check, and if you're successful, depending on how successful you are with your check, will determine how much information you gather. There's generally going to be 2 threats, and so there could be a hazard, an enchantment, or a monster. There could be multiple hazards. There could be multiple monsters. I guess there could be multiple enchantments active, but enchantments kind of rely on monsters. So if there's an enchantment, you can only roll enchantment once, and you're going to have to pick between, and then you'll roll between the other 2. Yeah, because there's enchantment effects that could impact you whether there's monsters there or not. So 1 enchantment per tile. There could be 2 creatures. There could be 2 hazards. If there's creatures, there's probably a dungeon. If there's an enchantment, there's a dungeon. There we go. Enchantments guarantee dungeons. Monsters might have dungeons. Hazards don't have dungeons. There we go. And enchantment dungeons are small instances like underground taverns. Like the enchantment, the source of the enchantment would be held within this dungeon. The dungeon is its own instant. It's like an expansion. Like in the tile itself, you'll have two challenges, 2 threats. Enchantment, monsters, or hazards. And if it's determined that there is a dungeon, when you go into the dungeon, there's going to be additional threats. Typically a monster, but could also be a hazard. It could be monsters and hazards, or one or the other. And then you go in. If there's an enchantment that you're seeking out, you then disable the enchantment. And then you extract yourself, and then you have whatever threats remain in that tile. Once you resolve the tile, you can take your short rest, pull your caravan into that area, and if it's time for a long rest, you can do so. But that's my time for the day. So we're gonna come back and we're gonna keep picking at this. Wherever we're dropping X's, we're looking for replacements. So I'm happy with white now. I'm happy with red. I'm looking for replacements on green. I'm not sure about... We'll come back and we'll look at blue and black and look for replacements in the general list. So I think this has been a pretty successful day. We're figuring out more procedures for assessing threats, like knowing what the threat is before you go into the tile. I think it's fair because there's multiple tiles. Yeah. Okay, procedures. Thinking them through. I'll be back with more stuff on Friday, same time. If you think this stuff is cool, like, subscribe, share with others. Check out some of my other streams. The best way for me to get lift on YouTube is for people to watch and not mute. Apparently, if you mute it, it thinks you're a bot and it automatically ignores that you've paid attention. So click on a couple different things, check them out. Give them a listen or ignore them as you please. But thanks a lot for your help. And jump into my Discord if you want to ask any kind of questions you might have. And I'll be back tomorrow morning to continue working on the Spelljammer ship, the ship statistic sheets. And that'll be publishing later this week. And yeah, thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you on the other side.